Tomura Shigaraki was definitely a handful and downright stressful at times. He had the temperament of a child and couldn't handle not getting his way. You knew he loved you and you loved him more than anything. But he was difficult and stubborn, and his words could cut like knives when he was particularly upset. Over time, you'd learned to get used to it and brush it off, knowing he didn't mean the things he said to you and would be just fine in an hour. This time, though, things were different. There was a poison in his words, clear as day, as he told you he didn't need or want your help with anything.
Everything was just fine before you came around. You're nothing special or irreplaceable.
He'd stared at you, his red eyes glistening with spite you'd only ever seen in his eyes when he talked about his enemies. You were at a loss for words, mouth agape, as you watched him turn and begin sauntering back to his room. "You're such an asshole, Shigaraki." Shigaraki stopped for a moment, looking over his shoulder at you, with a bored look plastered on his face.
"And you're whiny and annoying."
Before you could say anything else, he left the room. You stood frozen in place, cold with shock and disbelief, with hot angry tears pricking at your eyes. Kurogiri looked at you and began to talk, but you shook your head. "Don't! I'm over this, Kurogiri." The man turned away and went back to polishing his glassware, leaving you to whatever you were going to do. After a moment of thought, you turned and left the League's hideout, heading back to your own apartment. You hadn't been there in some time, but you refused to stay and deal with Shigaraki. You wouldn't sit around and wait for him to get out of his mood.
He'd been doing fine before me? Well, I'd been doing fine before him too.
You slammed the door shut, heading straight to your bedroom to sleep and cool down.
And how dare he call me whiny?
Later on, Shigaraki recovered from his fit of anger and went to find you so the two of you could play video games together and go to bed. He walked into the bar, but you were nowhere in sight, much to his dismay.
"Where are they?"
Kurogiri didn't look up from the glass he was cleaning. "They left after you did, though I don't know where they went."
"Ha! Well, they should be back before it gets too late. Let me know when they're here."
Shigaraki turned and headed back to his room. He came back out after a few hours, still not seeing you, and repeated this process over and over again until he eventually fell asleep. When he woke up to see that it was late morning and you weren't in bed beside him, an uncomfortable feeling formed in his stomach. He got out of bed and shambled into the bar, where he expected to see you asleep on the couch or at the bar talking to Kurogiri. But you weren't.
"What the hell?"
he muttered, pulling his phone from his pocket and dialing your number. You ignored his call on the third ring, which struck a nerve with him. You knew it wasn't the brightest idea, but you had no desire to talk to him at the moment. He would act like everything was fine, and it wasn't. He called again. You ignored him. Again.
"Where the hell are you? Why are you ignoring my calls?"
You groaned as you read the text. "I'm at home. Leave me alone, Shigaraki."
"What's your problem?
Annoyed, you pressed the call button on his contact. He immediately picked up.
Are you done acting like that?
Acting like what? You said you didn't need me, so I left. You spat, anger and hurt evident in your voice.
You know I didn't mean it. Come home.
No, I don't know that, Shigaraki. You hung up the phone, intending to flop backwards onto your bed, and almost immediately were teleported into the bar, where you fell onto the floor.
Ow! Kurogiri!
You exclaimed, picking yourself up from the cold surface. A cold hand grabbed your wrist, firmly but gently, and pulled you up. You stepped away, narrowing your eyes at Shigaraki. Let go of me!
No!
You wanted to fight back, but didn't want to risk making a move that caused his fifth finger to touch you. With a sigh, you accepted defeat and glared up at him, using every bit of your self-control not to say or do something you'd later regret. What do you want, Shigaraki?
I want you to stay here. To stay with me,
he muttered. You didn't need or want me here yesterday. You said I was whiny and annoying, you replied coldly.
I didn't mean it. I always say things I don't mean when I'm pissed off.
That was worse than anything you've ever said, Shigaraki, and the way you looked at me. I couldn't ignore it like I do everything else. He saw tears welling up in your eyes and pulled you into a hug, curling his hands into fists.
Stop it. Don't cry.
You were silent, doing your best to stifle your tears.
I'll make it up to you,
he continued.
Please don't leave. I want you to be with me. I need you to be with me, okay? You're my partner. I couldn't do any of this without you. I'll always need you.
You felt his tears wetting your shoulder and hugged him back. This fight may have been worse than any other, but this was the first time Shigaraki had shown such raw emotion and seemed concerned with losing you. I love you too, Shigaraki. I'm not going anywhere as long as you want me here. I need you too.
Good! I can't crumble society without help from my player too,
he mumbled, his voice muffled by your shoulder. Pulling away from the hug, you looked up at him, a soft, goofy smile on your face. That's so cute.
What? Don't make fun of me,
he pouted. I'm not making fun. It was cute. Kurogiri laughed from his place behind the counter, and Shigaraki's face flushed.
Don't laugh at me. Come on. We have some making up to do.
He grabbed your hand, elevating his pinky, and led you back to his room. He let you beat him in his favorite video game, and spent the entire day doing anything you wanted, giving Kurogiri strict instructions to keep any pests away from him for the day.